Good afternoon and welcome to the Senior Hour, which is sponsored by Providence Holy Cross Medical Center and Comfort Keepers in Home Care. I'm Barbara Cochran with my co-host,
Dr. Thomas Pilecki.
on your hometown station, 98.1 FM, AM 1220 KHTS. This is a show for, about, and by seniors, giving information to enhance one's quality of life. And speaking of quality of life, our first guest is Karen Warmack of the Behavioral Health Unit of Henry Mayo Hospital. Well, that's a mouthful. How are you? It's good to have you.
Thank you for inviting me, and I'm great. Thank you so much.
That's good. That's terrific.
Okay, so Karen, the holidays are coming up. Tough time for some people, especially in our senior community. It can be majorly challenging, especially around the holidays. So I'm just guessing that that's why you're here today.
100%.
Okay. Can we talk about it? What programs are you doing over at Henry Mayo to help people deal with this season of stress?
Yeah, I like that. Let's talk about this. So that feeling of feeling stressed or overwhelmed or tired or fatigued or not wanting to be around other people, and you notice that these things happen right around this time, I'm going to say in the fall, in the beginning of the winter, this is actually a name for this. There's a diagnosis. It's called Seasonal Affective Disorder. Acronym is SAD. Isn't that interesting?
Oh, cute.
Seasonal Affective Disorder.
SAD, correct. And so it's a real thing. And I want to just talk about those feelings that we get and what is the difference between SAD and depression. And there are definitely some similarities, but there are differences. And so it's not so much what Henry Mayo's doing. Let's just talk about what we can do as seniors and anyone to combat or address those feelings that just come up every winter. You notice you just feel blah. I really want to talk a little bit about that.
Awesome. So you can see that I like the sun. And I'd like to know what your feelings are on the effects of the limited daylight hours and seasonal affect disorder.
Wow, Dr. Thomas, you're just like hitting this on the head because it is. Did you know about this? Because you hit it. It is the sun.
A little bit about
Let's talk about that and what really happens during the season where we have less sunlight and the days are shorter and it gets darker quicker. We now know that the sun does great things for our brains and the things that happen in our brains. So when the winter comes, less sunlight creates certain things that happen in our brains. So you need the sun. So how do we fix this? What do we do? Well, today the sun is out. So I just want to say that those days that you're feeling blah, really push through and try to get some sunlight as much as possible. But there are other treatments that you can get that's out there for us.
Yeah, I've been having this discussion for a couple decades now because we're so trained. It's like we've been conditioned to become a society of vampires, like the sun is evil, like the sun will kill you. And it has led us to a point where there is an epidemic of vitamin D deficiency. And I believe that the two are directly related in how it affects your immune system, your emotional state, your physical well-being on so many different areas, including all the things that really concern seniors, like bone health and mobility and all of these things.
Right. So you're saying all those things that I want to talk about.
Oh, sorry.
No, you're perfect, Dr. Thomas. I love this. But I want some tangibility for our listeners, because really what does that mean? Because some of us don't. I want to address the real thing about seasonal affective disorder. It is a form of depression, and that's a real thing. So what do we need to do to help us when these winter months seem long and we're not getting out? You know, we find ourselves sleeping longer, or we find ourselves isolating, and we're overwhelmed with the holiday season. You know, it's even changing, right? It's just so much being lost. So I want to address the real thing that those of you who have had issues with feeling sad and depressed, this seasonal affective disorder will, it actually makes it worse. And I want you to know that there is help out there for you. The number one, that what you're feeling is accurate. And feeling those ways, it's only going to be temporary. The biggest thing that I want you to know, the difference between major depressive disorder and seasonal affective disorder, is that seasonal affective disorder will last 3 to 4 months, right? It's during the seasons. Major depression is lasting for a long time. And so I want all of us to be aware that if you've been feeling sad and even now worse, there are things that you can do. And I want you to reach out to healthcare providers, get some psychotherapy. I call talk therapy so important. I say reach out to friends. This is a season that we become intimate and relational with our family and our friends, and do things that will push us to get out. So volunteer at the hospital, go volunteer at a shelter, because pet therapy is dynamic. Find yourself laughing. But the other thing that we can do is the other self-care things. How's our diet? How well are we eating? Are we exercising? It's cold now, but how about getting out and just doing a walk every 30 minutes maybe? How about doing some meditation and intentional thinking? I got to tell you that I started a journal last year because I'm a little affected by this as well. I get really triggered, and I love the sun. So I started doing a journal on thankfulness and gratitude. When we focus on life and what we're grateful for, it helps us not so focus on the negativity in our lives. And so I encourage all of us to be grateful and thankful. The other thing that we can do, they're light therapy boxes that people can order off of Amazon. I tell you, it gives you phototherapy, which will help those of you who really need the sunlight.
Well, it's interesting because both of my kids say, Mom, it's beautiful outside. Go sit in the sun. It's good for you.
Yes.
And I do. I go into my backyard. I've got 2 very, very comfortable lounge chairs in the backyard. And I shake the sheets on them to get all
Yes.
the dust and everything off.
Yes.
And I go out there and sit. And I take a book and read, or a magazine or something. Or I will go outside and walk up and down the street. Because with being alone so much, it's so easy to just sit in that chair, turn
Yes.
that television on,
Yes.
and just sit.
Yes.
Yeah,
It
and
is
that
so easy to do that.
It is.
yeah, that blue light coming out of the TV is not the same thing as sunshine
No,
either. So
it
there's
isn't. It isn't.
yeah, it's not just what's on the TV, it's the actual technology itself that is not necessarily that great for you.
Right.
Right.
Absolutely. So I take that silly walker.
Yes.
I don't go anywhere without that. I've fallen too many times, and it's
Yes.
not worth it.
No.
And so I take the walker. I take this water bottle out of this, because if I go down the steps, the water splashes all over the
Right,
place
right.
and gets on the seat. So I put that down on the step, and I push that walker down, pick up my water, and I go down the driveway and walk up and down the block. I don't go across the street. That's a little bit too much, because the cars come screaming down our
Yeah.
street. Oh, it's terrible.
Yeah, it is a little scary here. Like people think they're driving on the freeway in neighborhoods.
Some of the people in my street, and because it goes like this, and then it goes up the hill.
Mm-hmm.
And there are so many houses between up the hill and down here that they come screaming down there.
Yeah.
And
So
all of a sudden,
safety is important.
Yeah.
oh,
So
good heavens.
can
So
I
that's
just
what
back?
I do.
That's
I
awesome,
go
Barb.
out
And it is
and walk.
perfect. That's
Yeah.
perfect.
Can I just back up for a second? You said
Yes,
about the
Dr.
light
Thomas.
boxes.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have some experience with that as well,
Oh, tell me more.
because I need photosynthesis. I am like a plant. I do not do well if I don't have sunshine, and
Yes.
there are times when it's just not possible. So I have one of these, but I have a pretty serious one. It actually produces a pretty good amount of ultraviolet. So you need eye protection. So that was the only thing that I was going to add to your
Thank you.
excellent recommendation, is
Thank
that if
you.
you are going to get into phototherapy, you need to do a little bit of homework and make sure that if it is producing any ultraviolet at all, that you've got to protect your eyes.
Yes.
The lenses of your eyes focus ultraviolet and can permanently damage your vision.
It can.
So
You mean these
Thank
don't
you.
help?
it depends. You'd like to think that sunglasses are enough, but that's not necessarily a guarantee. Real glass itself does provide some protection against ultraviolet, and then they do special things with the plastics that is supposed to be just as good, if not much better. But you never know. You never know. So when I do my light therapy, I don't wear glasses. I have those things that you wear in tanning beds, the actual blockers, like they are opaque blockers that don't let any light through at all. And I just put them on my eyelids. So, I need to see. I need to see for the rest of my life. So I'm not
Put them
taking
on
any
your
chances.
eyelids,
Yeah,
but you
they're.
don't walk with your eyelids closed.
No, I'm not walking when I got this light box therapy going. You're just sitting still. It's just like a facial mirror, but it's light that's coming out of it. It's like a tanning bed, and you're not walking around with this
Oh,
thing.
I thought you were talking about having those when you walk
No,
outside.
no.
It just helps give you that light, that photosynthesis that you need, that people really feel that they're fading away from not getting that sunlight. And I thank you, Dr. Thomas, for bringing that up. It's always important for all of us to read and get information and seek counsel about it, because sometimes it can be more damaging than anything. And so that's why I say, let's talk about the things that you can do that's safe. And it's that practicing mindfulness and getting up and walking like you said you do, which is amazing. Drinking plenty of water, increasing just
Don't
that
go
time.
anywhere without
Don't
this.
go anywhere without it. And spending time with those things that make you joy. Some of the symptoms that people experience when they are dealing with seasonal affective disorder, they feel like they can't do the things that they used to do anymore, and they isolate. And that's when I say you become more vigilant to push through and share with your friends and families that you're feeling these things and you're not alone and it's not abnormal. The percentage of people that are affected with SAD, it's high. It's over 75% of people of this population that experience it.
Whoa,
And
that's high.
it is very high. So I say that it's not abnormal, but there are things that you can do. And I just also want to say this, and I'm going to say this very responsible about alcohol. All of us will have a cocktail every now and then, or a glass of red wine, or maybe a little brandy in our eggnog. And I'm saying that's fine, but just be aware that sometimes when we're feeling sad and depressed, we might increase our alcohol consumption. And I would say to the listeners to be also mindful with that, because actually, alcohol, believe it or not, makes it worse. You feel good, but it does depress your central nervous system. And at the long run, you will even feel more depressed. So I would say don't not drink. Enjoy your cocktails.
Yes, well, that's what I do.
But if you drink
I
a
have
half
a glass. I have a glass of wine
You're
every
fine.
night with my dinner,
you are fine.
and that's it. I don't have
And
any more
I am
because
great
otherwise
about that.
I get a headache.
Right. It's okay, Barb. I'm not saying not to drink, but we have listeners here that will drink a whole bottle of wine, and this is not a judgment. Be mindful of, are you drinking because you're sad and depressed? Or are you drinking because you do your little glass of wine every night? I just
With my
want to
dinner.
share with people
I watch the news.
when you're feeling sad and depressed, be mindful of your alcohol consumption because it can increase those symptoms of feeling even more down. And you like, why do I feel worse after you've had a bottle and a half of wine?
I don't know how
You don't have to be drunk to watch the news, but it helps.
But it does help. Oh my
But
goodness.
when I drink too much alcohol, I
Yes,
get a
uh-huh.
headache.
Yeah.
That's what it does to me. So
Yes.
I've learned over the years to
Yes.
have my one glass of wine
I got
with
you.
my dinner, and that is it. No more.
You hear this advice, it's wonderful. You have 3 people here that are sharing with you really how to make it through this season. And I think my biggest takeaway for all of you is that it's not abnormal, that all of us at some point feel this, especially when there's not a lot of sunshine. But I just want you to know that there's help out there. And remember that laughing, taking care of yourself, I call the body well soulness kit works really well. And it is the drinking the water, walking every day, laughing, getting some time in journaling and being mindful about the things that you want to do and be careful not to get caught up with the frenziness of the holiday. It gets really crazy. Sometimes we put expectations on ourselves that we have to do, that we're expected to do, and sometimes we can't. We don't have the bandwidth. And so I want to say, be okay to say no. And don't feel like you have to do everything, but take care of yourself and love yourself, whatever that looks like.
Well, that's interesting because I was a friend of mine drove me over here today, and he's going to be taking me back home because I don't drive anymore.
Okay.
I don't trust myself as far as, being cognizant
Yeah.
because my mind has a tendency to go, oh, that's nice, crash. That's all I would need. But he was asking me what I was doing for Christmas. And I said, well, we've got Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. Those are the 4 days that our family is going to be using for Christmas because there are so many members of the family who have members of their family who they want to go see, members of this side, members of this, and we're thinking, okay, where are we going to start and where are we going to end? I used to have it all at my house, but I don't do that anymore. My daughter just comes down and decorates for me.
Right.
I just can't get up and cook and do all the things I used to do, you know. I'm fortunate. I've beaten cancer twice.
That's
Woohoo!
beautiful. Woohoo!
Yes. And I told the kids if I get it
Awesome.
again, I'll beat it again.
I believe that.
But anyway, that's what we're trying to work out now
Yes.
because we have probably 6 different families to go to because of the husbands and wives of my grandchildren
Yes.
and the husband and the husband of my daughter, and it's going to be a real challenge to get everybody in.
So just remember to take care of yourself. That's the whole message too. In the midst of all of this, be aware of how you're feeling. Be okay to say no.
Yes.
Take care of yourself. Intentionality and mindfulness is so important.
Thank you, Karen. And thank you for taking your time out of your busy schedule over at Henry Mayo. What exactly do you do over there at Henry Mayo?
Thank you for asking. Henry Mayo has a inpatient acute psych unit. We are a 23-bed, and we take patients with all kind of brain injuries, I say, schizophrenia, depression, anxiety, suicidal ideation, and I am the director. And that really just means I oversee that program to support people in our community. If they need any type of help, we're there to help them. And so that's what I do.
Thank you.
You're
And
so
thank you for
welcome.
all you do for Henry Mayo. And thank you for sharing this I felt like I was listening to some kind of self-help tape. You just got that voice and that energy and the whole
But
thing.
it was so informative, though.
Yeah.
Really.
Thank
Thank
you so
you.
Even
much.
sharing what you and I shared.
Sure.
Yes.
It was so, it came to you. That's what was important.
Right. Thank you so
Yes,
much. Thank
thank
you
you.
for inviting me. What
Oh,
a
you're
great
welcome.
opportunity to share.
Anytime. It's great to have you here. You're listening to the Senior Hour, KHTS, and 98.1 FM, AM 1220, hometownstation.com.
Welcome back to the Senior Hour. I'm Barbara Cochran with my co-host, Dr. Thomas Pilecki, on your hometown station, 98.1 FM, AM 1220, KHTS. And our guests this afternoon now are from Guirguis and Gibbs, certified public accountants. And we have Mark Guirguis.
Hello, how are you?
I'm fine.
Good to see you
and
again.
Amy Gibbs. It's
Hello.
good to see you.
Nice to see you as well.
Yes.
Okay, where's the dog?
Lacey is resting at the office,
Okay.
making sure the employees are working.
All right, good.
You have to have
Somebody-
a boss
yeah.
on site at all times. So
I
she
hear ya.
volunteered today. She wanted to say hello to you again.
Yes.
She'll be back.
Give her a scratch for me. So, it's getting crazy. It's getting crazy with every year. It seems like it's more and more impossible to deal with the ramifications of taxes, even if you're retired. And obviously,
Especially if you're retired.
yeah. So I'd like to ask you guys what does the average senior need to know about what's coming down the pike for this year in particular?
Well, I'm going to let Mark get started on this, but keep in mind we have a tax reform that is coming to a close in 2025, and Mark's going to elaborate on that. That is going to affect everyone, whether you're a senior or not. So we're definitely going to break down some issues coming around the pike.
Okay.
So the issues that we're speaking about has to do with the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act that President Trump actually signed when he was in office back in 2017. These particular, provisions in this act basically are due to sunset or, expire at the end of 2025. And you're probably wondering, why are we thinking about that now? Well, next year is going to be an election year. So that's ultimately going to decide, are these provisions going to expire? And we're going to go back to,
Old
Not-
tax tables.
thank you, exactly, old tax tables? Or are these going to be extended and people can enjoy the additional benefits that came with the act?
Okay. So for clarity, I'm an average guy. I try not to think about taxes because if I did, I wouldn't still be living here in California. So, what does what you're saying mean? I know it all makes sense to you, but for someone like me, I'm like, okay, I heard Trump, I heard, and that's going to polarize the audience. I heard this and that and the other thing. All I know is that something's going to happen in 2025, and it doesn't sound like it's good.
I'm going to start, Mark.
Go for it.
I'm going to make it real simple. For those tax clients that get to itemize because they own homes, everybody else in the past suffered because they didn't have enough to itemize, so they took what's called a standard deduction. And the standard deduction doubled back in 2000 with this Tax Reform Act back in 2018.
So that's a good thing.
That's a great thing. It has definitely helped many, many taxpayers. I've even seen some that used to itemize, but the standard deduction was more, and you get to deduct from your income the higher of the two. So it's definitely helped a lot of people. If this sunsets and does not get re-signed, it's going to go back down to the lower rates, which affects everyone.
Which means you need a better accountant to find other ways to try to
We're
keep you
great,
from
but you can only
giving
do
more
so
money
much.
to the government.
Additionally, once your taxable income is calculated, there's a tax table for each individual, whether you're single, married, had a household. Those tables went down in the Tax Reform Act as well. If, in fact, this doesn't get renewed, those tables are going to go back up and taxes are going to be higher.
Okay.
You want to enlighten the rest?
Well, what Amy was saying about that standard deduction for, seniors that can't itemize because they're on a fixed income,
Right.
they downsized. So they're taking
paid off
that
their homes?
Exactly. They're taking that standard deduction. I'll give you a great example. In 2022, if you and your spouse are filing together, you're over 65. The standard deduction that you received was about $27,000.
That's reduced from your income before you're taxed.
Let's say the TCJA wasn't in effect. For 22, they would probably only get about $15,000. So you would lose a benefit of $12,000 off the bat.
So you'd have to pay whatever your bracket is on an extra $12,000.
Correct.
Got it.
And for seniors on a fixed income, that's a lot of money.
Yeah, that's a lot of money.
It's just a lot of money. One of the other provisions that could be going away is the estate and gift tax. This impacts a lot of people who, are in the industry, who work with their older clients, working on their estates, seeing who they're going to leave money to or not leave money to in their family, depends. And that was actually doubled to just north of 11 million. If the act goes away, it's going to be reduced down to just over 5 million. So
See, I don't know what that.
Yeah.
I hear the words that you're saying, but trust me when I tell you that the average person, you've already lost. What does it mean to me? What you're saying right now?
More taxes.
More
ta-
taxes.
okay.
This
I
is-
mean, it's the value of your whole life, basically, and who's going to inherit it. And for many of us, we don't care about the limits. But for people who have multiple homes, multiple businesses, this adds up fast.
Gotcha. Barbie, you want?
No, I was just saying, whoa.
Yeah.
Her head spinning.
Yeah. Okay, so that is that the big bombshell for this year, that this thing is going to be sunsetting in 2025, especially if certain people get elected next year. Is that what you're saying?
I think ultimately people, when they vote this year, look beyond who the candidate is and look at what they are going to change
Yeah.
or implement.
Right.
I think that is more important now than ever.
Yeah.
And we have to protect ourselves. So we have to look at all interests.
Yeah. Yeah. You would like to think that is logical and that's the way people vote, but we saw in
We
this
have to
last.
take the emotions out.
we
Really.
you got to get rid of the emotions. Really,
Worry about
seriously.
your bank account better.
Yeah.
Well, my daughter does my finances now, since I don't do them anymore. And but she was showing me the bank book, and I went through it, because I in the past I've given a lot to charities, donations. So what I do every year is go through each of my bank books and put down the names of the charities and how much I've given them. I've done that for years, and I will not stop doing it now.
It's actually a very good write-off. You will save about a third of what you give away, and that's one of the last write-offs we still have to do. So if you itemize, I encourage you. The other thing is people overlook non-cash donations like Goodwill, Salvation Army. Those add up quickly. You have to do a
Yes.
little bit of work, but those are great tax deductions.
Right, but that's like yard sale write-off. Like you can't, if you have an antique that's worth, $5,000, you can only write it off for like $50.
Not necessarily. Something that is an antique and worth more than $5,000, you need to get appraised.
Yeah.
That still can be a decent write-off
Okay.
with your appraisal.
Yeah, I have several items that my brother's wife sent me, 'cause he passed away. And he had scads of my parents' antiques. And one of them is one of those things that you do this to blow the air.
I think it's
bellows.
a flute.
Yeah.
It's whatever it is. It's about this big, and you do this and
Right.
it blows whatever it does. But it's years old, years, absolutely years old, and I have to find a good antique dealer up here to give me some information on it.
I would check with two just to get a second opinion.
Yes, I will. I definitely will.
But don't take it to Vegas.
Yeah, don't take it to Vegas.
I'll give you 50 cents.
We have a couple of other items that are super important for seniors as the year closes and as the new year begins. scams are on the rise.
Oh, good heavens.
And I want to talk about one. I know Mark has several he wants to talk about, but I just read about this 2 months ago, and I think it's even happened. I've gotten the phone call. These scammers are not only emailing, they're not only sending you letters, they're calling you on your cell phones now.
Yeah.
And one of the scams out there presently is somebody that calls you and you say hello, and they say, "Can you hear me? Can you hear me?" And they're waiting for you to say yes.
Yeah.
Please don't say yes. Say yes, I can. Just say I can hear you. Don't say the word yes, because they're tape recording
Sample
your
it,
voice and they're using it to open bank accounts and various other fraudulent activities. Do not say yes, I can hear you. Just say I can hear you, or hang up. That's the best option. If you don't know the number and you say hello, hang up. But there are a few more that Mark wants to mention.
Yeah, please.
I never answer a phone call on this unless I recognize the number or the name. It just goes to voicemail, or there'll be a message down there that says, so-and-so tried to call you. Left a message.
And you can always listen to the voicemail, but many times they make it sound very urgent and you have to
Sure.
call back. Don't do it.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, I've had that happen to me
Yes.
And
several
it's
times.
getting, they're getting really good at this.
They are.
I mean, really good at this.
Especially with AI, artificial intelligence. It's frightening.
So I don't want to take too much time, but I want to give a movie plug, The Beekeeper. It's coming out soon. It's if anybody doesn't know who like the glitter bomb guy is, you know what I'm talking about? Porch Pirates. He created this nice little package that sprayed glitter and skunk juice on anybody who stole packages from the front, his front. So Hollywood has taken that to an extreme and put Jason Statham in that role. And he goes ballistic on scammers. Like,
bet.
yeah, it's insanely
I
good.
tend to do that as
yeah,
well.
I'm looking forward to this. Now back to the scams,
I
please.
do want to add one quick thing too. I made a note. I had a client several years ago that called our office. He was in his 80s, late 80s, and he literally called crying because somebody said they were calling from the IRS, and check this out. They were he lived in one of the senior complexes out here that's gated, and they said that they were outside his gate waiting for him, and they were going to arrest him if he didn't send over $5,000 in Walmart gift cards immediately.
Yeah,
And
that's
he-
always a tip
And
off.
I'm glad, but he didn't know any better, and I'm glad that he called me because I'm glad he didn't go outside his house. I'm glad he didn't, give in to these demands. But the IRS, the Franchise Tax Board, I promise you, everyone, they will never call you.
And they will never ask for Walmart gift
They
cards.
will never
as
ask for
payment.
that, but they won't call you directly, period, end of story. They will send you a certified letter,
Right.
but they will not call you. So just laugh at these people and hang up on them.
Good.
What used to be is like the emails. You get this one from
Yeah.
an unknown sender. English is, terrible. The grammar, the sentence, the greeting even sounds weird. And you're just like, yeah, I know this is a scam, delete.
Right.
I'm still trying to teach my dad that. He's like, what's this? Oh, it says B of A. And I'm like, Dad, don't click it. Just throw it in the trash. It's
Oh,
not
yeah.
B of A.
I clicked mine off.
Nowadays,
I get so many from B of A.
exactly. Nowadays,
And I'm thinking, what?
well, nowadays they're getting better because with artificial intelligence, they're able to craft these, perfectly sounding emails or letters,
Yep.
and they sound so real and authoritative, you know? Oh, you owe this money. You have to give this. You need to do this.
And oftentimes it's on the letterhead of legitimate corporations. But always check the email address because that is not coming from the corporation. And that is typically the only giveaway right now. That's the only thing that you might be able to spot.
We have gotten letters from franchise tax or IRS or other controlling agencies, and something didn't feel right about them. And after looking them over and over, we determined they're fraudulent.
Yeah.
Either they spelled the client's name wrong or something wasn't kosher with it. So
Right.
always get help. Ask your accountant, your attorney, a sibling, a daughter or son.
Somebody.
Yeah. Yeah, and even then, it is very easy to fall for this. No one should feel like they did something wrong if they don't feel they understand what is going on, and they should immediately second guess anybody asking for anything anymore.
That's their main drive, is to
Yeah.
put fear into
Yep.
the person so they succumb to it.
Yep.
Don't be afraid, be logical.
Yep. Yep.
That's the biggest thing that everybody can do, especially seniors who are not as versed on technology and know to the extent what a criminal will do just to get your personal information.
Yeah.
So we say to all of our older clients, if anybody's demanding, hounding you for money, you don't know them, they're pretending to be, I don't know, your nephew, and they're saying, you got to give me money or I'm going to jail.
Right.
You know, those kinds of things, and try to throw you off. They want to instill that fear because that's going to override logic. Always
Gotcha.
put yourself in control and say, you
Yeah.
know, is this logical?
Yeah, we got to take a quick break, but I want to bring you back for at least a few minutes to try to
We have two
impart
other topics that
as
are
much
very important.
as much information as possible. You're listening to the Senior Hour, KHTS FM 98.1 AM 1220 hometownstation.com.
Welcome back to the Senior Hour. I'm Barbara Cochran with my co-host, Dr. Thomas Palaki, on your hometown station, 98.1 FM, AM 1220 KHTS. And we're speaking with Mark Guirguis and Amy Gibbs from Guirguis and Gibbs, Certified Public Accountants. Oh, that's a mouthful, isn't
It's
it?
a mouthful.
All right, so we only have a few minutes, and there's something really important that
Yes.
we need to talk about, and that is the tax implications involved with Medicare.
So just to give more clarity, this is a state issue. It's not going to be a federal, at least we know for the time being. So Saturday, October 7th, quietly, Gavin Newsom signed what they call State Bill 770. What it is the state's version of a single-payer healthcare system. What they're ultimately trying to do is eliminate competition for private health insurance. They're not going to give us an opportunity to opt out of it. Nobody. So we're all going to be shoved in like cattle into this one healthcare system because the complaint always has been, oh, healthcare costs too much, healthcare costs too much. And that's correct. But healthcare costs too much because of the bureaucracy and red tape. So they're looking to government to find a solution. And Gavin Newsom thinks that this is going to be the solution. This is what it's going to be. And seniors probably will get hit the hardest. The federal government provides California, they subsidize like Medicare, Medicaid, a few $1 billion a year to kind of support our healthcare costs, because California has the biggest healthcare costs of any state. What the single-payer healthcare system is going to do is take that money for Medicare, Medicaid, and additional billions of dollars from our budget, probably around $200 billion altogether, and redirect it to this new healthcare system. The biggest problem with the healthcare system, it's already been projected that it could cost over $500 billion. Now, you're thinking, okay, they have $200 billion, it's going to cost $500, we're missing $300 billion.
Do we get a super speed train out of this deal?
You know what? It hasn't been enacted, but the bigger issue I have with this bill is you're adding $300 billion to our budget in California. And the only way they're going to be able to do it foreseeably is raise taxes. If they pull this off, it will be the single largest tax in California history. And you heard it correct. Seniors already lived on a fixed budget. They say in the United States, the average person doesn't even have $1,500 to cover an emergency bill. So how are you going to expect an average taxpaying California citizen to cover potentially what's going to be additional several $1,000s to the state every single year?
That sounds scary and disturbing, and I'd like some kind of answer from consulting with you, but we don't have time to do that
Right.
here on the air. So
Unfortunately, I have to tell you, there are very few people that are actually aware of this right now. We've talked to other colleagues that are attorneys, doctors, other accountants, and tax professionals, and not many have heard of this. It sort of went behind closed doors
Right, yeah, I get
and
that.
slid in. So as soon as we find out more information,
we'll have you back.
absolutely.
Awesome.
yes.
Thank you so much.
And next time, I also want to discuss residency audits when you leave California.
Sounds great. You've been listening to the Senior Hour, KHTS, FM 98.1, AM 1220, hometownstation.com, brought to you by Providence Holy Cross and Comfort Keepers.